Greetings and welcome to Discovering Jai Uttal. That's me. This is a 9-part journey through the stories, music, teachers, the challenges, and the moments of grace that have shaped my life and continue to guide my path of devotion. I hope you enjoy. I mentioned a little earlier in a previous episode how one of the albums that I had purchased profoundly moved me. The album was called Street Music of India, the Bauls of Bengal. And, it was kind of the first time I heard this singing. Well, it was an Indian singing, but it had this passion in it. It was not elegant or trained, but it was very rustic, but it had this passion that felt like it was breaking through the sky and reaching for the heavens. And I felt it. I was not really a singer. I sang a little bit, but I wasn't really a singer, but I wanted to be able to break through that sky like that. Anyway, I decided there and then that someday, somehow, I wanted to meet these guys. I also remember that when Bob Dylan put out his album, John Wesley Harding, when he was kind of, you can say, on retreat in Woodstock, on the cover of this album were these two Bengali Bauls. They had the turbans, they had the patchwork quilts, and who, how, why, right? So anyway, I went to India and I was there with my friend, and we decided we got to find the Bauls. So we were actually in different parts of India. We said we're going to meet in Calcutta, which we did somehow. And then we took a train to West Bengal to this town called Bolpur. Bolpur, it's a dirty, messy Indian town, a train stop. But nearby it was a town called Shantiniketan. And Shantiniketan was founded by Rabindranath Tagore, who was a worldwide renowned Indian mystic, poet, author, singer, one could say saint. Ali Akbar Khan, who I talked a lot about in the previous episode, remembered when he was a baby being sitting in Rabindranath Tagore's lap. So that transmission from generation to generation. Anyway, we had read that the Bauls lived around Shantiniketan. And the Bauls, at first were treated as outcasts. They were very mystical, but they didn't want anything to do with formalized Hindu religion or formalized Islamic religion. They wanted no forms, they wanted no pictures, no images, and they worshiped God, mostly calling him Krishna, but not always. Some called him Allah. They worshipped him as the man in the heart, the man who lived in the heart and soul. So also they had long hair, they wore patchwork clothing, but it was Tagore who said, "You're calling these people outcasts, but this is the jewel of Bengali culture. You must listen to them more deeply. Look at them more deeply. They are to be honored." So, anyway, we were in this town of Shantiniketan, and I had the intention of, there was a university there founded by Tagore. I had the intention to study some more classical music at the university, but really what we wanted to do was find some Bauls. So Gangadhar and I were walking around the paths. It was a small village, all dirt paths, and we were walking around a path one day, and there was a little chai wala. Chai wala means a chai seller. It's a little tent with a couple of benches and a stove that was made out of clay. That's the way the chai stands used to be in India, and very oh great. So we sat down, we had a chai and a little biscuit, and we're just kind of wondering what to do next. And we hear this sound from down the path, coming from where we had come. And somebody singing and a drum and a shaker. We thought it was probably a couple of people, but then we see that it's just one old man. And he's got long hair. And he is has one kind of looks like a tabla drum attached to his waist, which he's playing with his left hand. He has a one-string instrument, an ectar, that he's playing with his right hand, and he's got ankle bells around his ankles, and he's walking and singing. Now, how do I say this without denigrating someone? Well, I'll put it this way. The song was completely out of tune. The drum was completely out of rhythm. The ectar was, I don't know where it was, but he was beautiful. He was so beautiful. He was contained in this kind of like, I don't know, like a vessel of light. So we asked him if we could buy him a chai. We couldn't really talk because I didn't know any Bengali and he did not know any English. But he sat down with us. We bought him a chai. We bought him a biscuit. And then he graciously said thank you and went on his way. So Gangadhar and I looked at each other and said, let's follow this guy. So he was, a little ways ahead, but we could hear him. So we followed him on this path. We followed him for quite a while. And we're like kind of wondering, we don't get lost in the backwoods of Bengal. But after a while, he came to this clearing, and there was a big tent and a stage, and under the tent were a bunch of seats, but it was very few people. It was not a big event, but there was probably more people on stage than in the audience. Which, jumping forward, is kind of the way I used to like to do it at Bhakti Fest. And I would say my whole musical vision for the Pagan Love Orchestra was, okay, people from different villages all around knew the same song, but they all know it a little differently, and let's play it together. But let me backtrack again. So we're in this little space, and on stage, so it looked like a bunch of families. There's young men, young women, older women, grannies, and nursing mothers, and it's just like a whole village on stage. And each song, somebody from the crowd would stand up. There was just one microphone, and he or she would sing their song, some playing a dotar, a little string instrument, some playing a little drum, some just singing. And everybody, all the families sitting on stage would sing support. I don't know, they would sing the chorus with him or whatnot. It was so cool. And we felt like, okay, we have just hit the mother lode, right? So then the whole concert ended, and there's these two Bauls standing over to the side, and we said, these are the two guys that were on Bob Dylan's album cover. So, not knowing any English, any Bengali, we walked up to them and introduced ourselves. And one was Purnadas Baul, who later became probably the most famous Baul singer in the world. And the other was Lakshman Das Baul. And I said to Lakshman Das, hi, namaskar, greetings. I saw you on that album with Bob Dylan. And he looked at me. He had this beautiful, beautiful face. He was a very beautiful guy with long hair and turban. And he looked at me and he said, do you have any LSD? Of course we didn't. But we made the acquaintance of a younger guy, a Baul named Baidyanath Das Baul, and we asked him to become our teacher. So we had Gangadhar and I and our girlfriends at the time got this house in the desert, kind of by a dry riverbed. There was a crazy house that was created by this artist named Kiran Sinha. As an art studio dedicated to his daughter. So we moved in, and Baidyanath Das would come like 3 or 4 times a week and teach us songs. Again, we didn't speak any Bengali, he didn't speak any English, but he taught us music. He taught us how to play the dotar, it was like a kind of miniature sarod. He taught us how to play a drum beat on a wooden table and sing your heart out. And every song he taught, we would write down, what it sounded like, phonetically, and then we go across the field to our landlord, Kiran Sinha, this beautiful, very renowned Indian artist, and his Austrian wife named Rani. Kiran was an amazing man. He was on the verge of becoming ultra famous, and his patron was Indira Gandhi. And he was at all these big art shows in Delhi, and he said, I don't want this life. I don't want this world. And he moved back to this village, to Shantiniketan, and became just a local artist. And you know, he was making so many beautiful canvases. His wife Rani was kind of cuckoo, and anyway, they took us into their home and into their heart, and Kiran would translate all the songs for us. So between Baidyanath Das Baul teaching me music and Kiran teaching me the meaning of the words, this time in my life with the Bauls of Bengal was completely transformative. It put a light, like a bright lightning bolt, into my whole musical consciousness and my whole musical creativity. I cherish that season with the Bauls with all my heart.